Hello everybody, I'm Gwen Campbell-Mindes. Welcome to Gwen's Bookish Ramblings, and I'm not going to talk about any individual book this week because having finished a significantly sized series, I'm going to do a quick recap sort of thing, I guess. Obviously I'm not going to do these particularly often, but, you know, when you've done as many books as are in the Dame Frevisse series, I should probably do a recap. So these are in alphabetical order because, as you may have guessed, I just copied and pasted this straight off of my computer screen, so this is how it appears in, my picture files on my computer. So, So this is a fun series. But it has its serious side, and it's a series that I have just enjoyed so very, very much, especially coming back to it and going all the way through to the end. I enjoy, of course, anyone who reads a Frevisse book, you enjoy when she's sharp, when she's sarcastic, when she's funny. But as I've said before multiple times, it's also very enjoyable the fact that she is a good person who is really very significantly aware of her faults and works very, very hard to mitigate them. The efforts at mitigating her faults are actually one of the very, very interesting ongoing threads in this series. The fact that over and over again, right from the start in The Novice's Tale, where she is consistently reminding herself that she should have sympathy for people who aren't, for the fact that Sister Thomasine, or rather at that point in time still Novice Thomasine, is so very, very dedicated and devoted to the church and to becoming a nun, to the point of some fears of the outside world and a whole bunch of other things. And Frevisse has to remind herself that not everybody is going to be as calm and practically minded as she is. When you read the story, I believe The Reeves Tale? No, not The Reeves Tale. Whichever one it is, in which she is faced with the fact that the Clark's Tale, most likely. She's faced with the death of Maurice Montfort, who she basically had kind of an unfriendly rivalry with because he was supposed to be investigating murders and consistently did a bad job at it in ways that were due to him being neglectful because he just wants it over with and doesn't care about justice or anything else. And she has to spend that entire book reminding herself that what's important is not finding justice for Montfort per se. What's important is that somebody committed a murder, and if somebody is doing that, then they have done a thing wrong and need to be brought to an understanding of it, need to have attention brought to this. And that she faces this over and over again in The Outlaw's Tale, when her cousin has turned outlaw because he has done some things wrong many years ago and is still stuck that way. She finds herself in a position at points in this book to do things that may not be wholly ethically good, but she makes a choice that she feels is the correct moral choice because to do otherwise would to cause greater harm than being truthful about it, that the truth is known to those who are important, and more than that, the issue has been resolved sufficiently that she doesn't have to worry about it. And so you have these back and forths for her of what is the right thing to do and when is it the right thing to lie through your teeth and to commit that smaller sin in favor of avoiding a larger one. The story, The Bastard's Tale, is particularly important when she goes and she lies like a rug because she can force a man into doing the right thing by lying, and the wrong thing he is about to do is so much worse than her lying that she is willing to commit that minor sin in order to prevent a greater one. And so it's a constant thread in these books, not only her trying to deal with her own, am I doing this because I'm feeling uncharitable, but also her willingness to say, what is the action that will be the greatest moral good? And it's something that she tries so hard for and agonizes over very, very frequently in these books. And it's an interesting internal discussion because perhaps for someone who is not a Catholic or not a nun, some of these may not seem like moral debates, but the moral and ethical debate, the form of one, is nonetheless a worthwhile and interesting mental exercise to go through, if nothing else. I also always enjoy the steps into her approach to her faith. The fact that she is somebody of genuine and true and powerful faith. It's an ongoing line through all of these books that she looks to whatever it is that the office of the moment is, that she reaches for it for comfort, for clarity, to help herself reach a state where she can do the right thing. As I said, the issue of Maurice Montfort, where he was a bad person, he was a selfish person, the things that he did to his wife and family were appalling, and that Frevisse, winds up having this discussion with his wife, who, among other things, tells her that I never confessed to these various sins that I committed in relation to him because I couldn't repent of these sins, because I knew that the moment that I was out of confession, I'd do it all over again. Which is always an interesting question, because, of course, the notion that you have of God's forgiveness is that you have to repent of your sin and ask forgiveness and God will forgive you. But if you're not sorry you did it, if you're never sorry that you did it, then you can't repent, because how can you repent? How can you say you're sorry for something if you're not actually sorry? God's not going to forgive you if you aren't actually sorry you did a thing. And you have these questions that get raised again and again, but you also have Frevisse's, like I said, she returns to her faith over and over and over again. And sometimes it's cold comfort, and sometimes the office is exactly what she needs to hear to gain a clear mind and to figure out the issue. And I just so very, very deeply enjoy the way these books talk about this, the way they go through it, and the way that Frevisse, she is an imperfect person. You can see how she struggles, and the fact that she is somebody who is highly pragmatic, wholly and utterly a pragmatic person. And so as much as she loves the offices, she will frequently struggle with bringing herself to pay attention to them, because she does have a lot of outward-looking pragmatic thought about doing the right thing and being in the world and how to help people and all of that sort of thing. And the inner strength and the wisdom and the way that she is so frequently, centered and calm and figures out ways to do this means that when we reach the final book in the series of novels, which is The Apostate's Tale, and The Apostate's Tale ends with Frevisse being voted in as prioress. And it's very, very interesting because right at the beginning of these books, going right back to, which was it? I believe The Maiden's Tale. You go right back to one of the earliest novels in the series, and Domina Edith, who is the prioress when we first start this series, tells Frevisse, "I would have wanted you to be prioress after me." And Frevisse is horrified by that thought. And Domina Edith tells her, I'm not going to push you into that corner. I wouldn't want to do that to you. And Frevisse does not become prioress, but Dame Alice does, and she is the worst. And then following Dame Alice, the bishop decides that they can't, that none of them can actually handle what's going on, and so he installs his sister. And so Domina Elizabeth takes over, and she is the prioress for the rest of the majority of the series until The Apostate's Tale, where the stress has just gotten to her and she can't deal with it anymore. And Frevisse is already stepping into the role of prioress by the end of that book by offering advice that it's a prioress's job to give, and doing it with perhaps not internal ease, but external ease, with an understanding of what it is that people need to hear, what it is that needs to be said. And at the end of that book, she is named prioress. And it's a wonderful closure, to the series overall, because it gives that dismay, but at the same time, it is something that is rightly earned as you look over all of these books, as you look over the lessons she learned and the forbearance that she has learned, and how she is able to handle all of this in The Apostate's Tale, and the fact that Domina Edith saw this all those years ago. And then you have the short stories that I, read following this, which perhaps I should have read them as they occur in the series, but I did not. And the thing is that Winterheart, which is the last of these and the last one published, Winterheart is that one final reminder, that moment of seeing her in her role as prioress, in being the one in charge, in seeing her attempting to reinstate the silence rule, which may or may not take, but also that you have her reminding herself of her greater responsibilities, because they are not just to the priory, but to the land surrounding the priory and the villains and serfs that are under her care. And it's a wonderful ending to this series. And I can't say enough good things about this series. It's serious, but not too serious. It's fun and often lighthearted, but has its darker aspects. And I have always found these books a joy to read. So, I think that's the last we're going to hear about Dame Frevisse, unless something else comes up, and I will see you all next week.